Hello, everybody. Man, it's been a crazy weekend so far, and we're here with the DevOps panel, as is tradition for a Sunday, to talk about some of the cool things that we've done over the year getting ready for this convention, some of the things that we totally fixed last minute, and some of the crazy things that happened, like last night, which we'll talk about at the end so that we can get through our slides first. On the stage with me is White Wolf, one of our back-end engineers, Kakius, our back-end lead, Connie, our back-end second, Magic, our front-end lead, and Volker, one of our UX designers, who will be talking about some of the cool stuff going on. And myself, I am F.O.X, the DevOps director of Furality. We have a lot of slides, so I'm going to just keep moving forward here. By the way, we do have a Q&A channel in the Discord where you can pop in questions anytime, and we'll go through them at the end if there's time available. So, Furality DevOps Department, we have a bunch of people. Just only some of us are here on the stage, but I don't think we would even all fit on this hologram. So we have myself as director, project manager. We have Arrow. Then we have backend team, which takes care of like all the APIs and stuff that run everything behind the scenes, and automation. Front end, which does all the stuff that you see in your browser. Infrastructure team that helps sort of let all that stuff live somewhere and works closely with the back end and front end team to make that as much of a automatic process as possible. And of course, the UX team, who helps actually make it look not like I drew something on a piece of paper, which you'll probably see in a picture at some point. Thank you very much, because nobody would like that. Team's quite big. There's some icons of everyone, and of course, there's always the lovely team page on furality.org/team that, thank God, is now API driven, because I used to update that manually, and after 100 people, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Please make an API. So, just to give you a little bit of perspective on just how much stuff is going on and why we might have so many people. We've done an actual count for the first time. I didn't know this number until we made this slide. We apparently have 58 GitHub repos, excluding what Furality Creative uses and other archive things of what we are currently working with within DevOps, within which we have 43 unique software applications that are made by our team. And then including other softwares that we just host to help support that and support other teams at Furality, we have 61 different applications deployed in production. That does not include the copy of our production cluster that we have as a dev environment, because, testing in prod may be fun, but it's not a good idea when you have a convention going on at the same time. So most of our services that we have that run all the stuff behind the scenes in the convention, especially back-end wise, is going to be in our Kubernetes cluster. But then we do have other services outside of that, mostly front-end hosted in Cloudflare pages, and things like buckets hosted by DigitalOcean, and maybe a VM here or there for something that just can't be containerized at the moment. And then a fun metric of how much sleep we get, I don't know. It's not a valid number. I didn't go to bed last night. I know some of you may have stayed up or gotten a few hours, and hopefully you all got plenty of sleep with your mandatory break there for 8 hours. Here's some cool visualizations generated by, was it Gorse? I think.
Yes, it was Gorse.
What all the little files look like in a really cool representation for the code that lives on your browser when you're on the F.O.X portal. This is all the front end code for that. This is the API structure, I guess. Backend Boop, our authentication system that's what allows you to log in with VRChat and then get to our systems. You only see it for a brief moment, but for us as staff, this lets us get to all of our internal applications and lets all of our various teams have the permissions to do what they need to do based on the team they're on. Kubernetes state. This is basically a repo of all of the instructions for our cluster to deploy what it needs to deploy. What should be hosted, how should the scale be, where do the secrets live, and all that. That's a lot of files. Kubernetes is complicated. I don't know how you manage it, but I'm glad that you do. registration API. This is new as of this year. It didn't exist before January 1st, but glad that it's working and that you're all here. I know Kaki is too. That was a huge endeavor. And I think this is the last visualization here. The user location service, which has probably, I think, the most slides in this 100-slide deck, and is something that I think the team should be really proud of for working on it. For those of you here on stage and those that aren't that helped work on it, this has been an endeavor that's been going on since Umbra. So at least an entire year, if not at least thought about before then, for a really complex thing that took down VRChat last year. If you didn't hear, we took down VRChat's friend system last year twice because Furality decided to have 30,000 friends. So major initiatives for DevOps department for F8, or as you guys know it as Furality Somna, our 8th convention. New registration system. Finishing our F.O.X API 2.0 migration, which we've talked about in past year's panels. Basically, we've been moving all of our stuff over to Nest.js. Before it was PHP. And this was like the last thing that was still hanging on for bare life because my code was very hard to get rid of. And they finally deleted it. And of course, the friend system that we're going to talk about, it's called the user location service, and the general improvements to the UX and design of the website. So just kind of getting into that. Oh, some small but other things that we did. If you notice, if you've been to the dealer's den, especially in the week leading up to the convention and during the convention, you can link your world to your Furality account and sync your favorites or bookmarks of the boost you visit to the website in real time. Some really cool integration between VRChat world and our systems, and that's why you get that special prompt when joining the world saying, hey, I'm connecting to outside APIs. And what's this about? Boop. I didn't read this bullet point. Oh, the fast search. Yeah, so for those several of you that got the party host system, you are able to use a real-time search of your friends to add them to your party. And that was a really cool and responsive like interface that's like super quick. It's faster than like even searching Discord's search or whatever. And the system behind that to make that actually work at the scale that we are is pretty cool. So good mention there. But before we get into all the friend stuff, just want to talk briefly about why did we need to work on registration and write a whole new API that didn't exist before January when, you know, this is our 8th convention, right? Then we already have this stuff figured out. Well, please move to the next slide. So did I miss one? No. Okay. So obviously with registration, you have some key things it needs to do. It needs to let people register. And also because we're awesome in the furry convention, just like all the other furry conventions, we want to let people donate to cool charity of the year, right? And, you know, you guys are really smashing it with the Center of Orlando. It's crazy where we're at already. Even before the con started, we were like over, what, $25,000? It was crazy. So key things, registration system. Let those two things happen, right? Easy. Well, we wanted to add some stuff with that. So a little more complex. Wanted to let people buy things like the Party Host add-on. Let people buy multiple vouchers. And also let those choose the multiple tiers, because before you could only buy one voucher at a time and it was only the attendee level. Now you could do all 3 levels if you would like to get extra passes for your friends. Don't hard code anything. So every year we would have to basically search the code for some special keys of where we say it's no longer Furality Umbra, it's now Furality Somna, and you know, any other special keys that we had to update. It was all in the code. Some of it was variable, but it was really like not where it should be, especially if we wanted to make any significant change. Also, a cool initiative we had was to support purchase price parity for registration discounting, and also support non-USD payments, because we are a global convention, and there's quite a number of you that are not inside of a country that pays with USD. So, if that wasn't complex enough, we also wanted to add dynamic pricing that changes over time to introduce that early bird pre-registration price and sort of like the quote at the door price of the week of the con. So yeah, that really didn't work with what we had before, which when we originally created the registration, like the first one that I had made back when it was a team of one, and then when we got DevOps department going and it was API driven and had an actual nice front end that was in starting to use things like JS. It was purpose made for that. We only ever had 3 tiers. They were hard coded. All we had to do was set the price of those 3 tiers, and everything else was baked in. There was no concept of products. There was no concept of like a cart. It was just all like explicitly made to do the one thing the way that we needed it to do, and that was great at that time until someone decided that we wanted to do things differently, and it's like, oh shoot, we have to rethink this, right? So after many discussions, we basically need to start over with registration, at least behind the scenes. It may look pretty familiar at some points of it, but behind the scenes, we needed to do a lot of stuff to get it to function the way it does today. So kind of approaching this as how do we go forward with designing a system like this, it's good to start with like, what's the big picture? What are your goals, your business goals, and sort of your maybe project goals for the code of what it should do. That way, as you design the system around those requirements, you can make sure that you're meeting all of them. So for at least the business goals, are basically Furality itself is obviously the main point of registration is to fund the convention organization, right? Furality Inc. We use the registration money to put on this convention. This doesn't come from nowhere, and this is very expensive. So that's why you have to register to attend, even though VR chat may be free to play. Also, we wanted to make the convention more accessible and improve the experience for attendees. Pretty standard business goals for just about any business. Some more DevOps-oriented things on our side, like as a team, as compared to just the business overall, is we wanted to remove hard-coded prices and names, kind of like removing technical debt. We had a race condition that was existed before, where in a very like rare situation, if you click forward and back in a certain sequence, you could potentially end up with 2 transactions or charges. I think as like of the 21,000 people, I had to refund like 6 people. It wasn't that prevalent, but the fact that it was possible was bothering us. Make registration resilient to load outages in F.O.X portal. So inevitably something's going to break, whether it's us or VR chat. So when that happens, we don't want registration to break, because if registration goes down while you're in the middle of paying, it might not know that you paid and then say you still need to pay, and we get into that weird situation where for that outage, I now have to refund a bunch of people who paid twice, and that's not fun for anybody. So separating them was one of the goals, so that registration is hosted over here and the F.O.X portal is hosted over here, and if either of them have any issues, they don't take down each other. And unit testing. We don't do unit testing. I'm kidding. There's a lot of unit testing, but now the registration API has it. We have so much unit testing. Oh my God, we ran out of minutes on GitHub, so much. But that's a good thing. So first business goal, just kind of dive into that a little bit. Funding the organization. So if you didn't know to the scale of like what this costs, Furality's 2023 operating budget was about $650K. That's a lot of money, and it's been going up. So Furality Inc. 2024 operating budget, we estimate about $800K. So you can see that there's a rise in cost. There's a lot of things that go into that. Obviously, if we expand the creative team, that'll go up a little bit, but not quite that significantly. Hosting costs go up. The fact that we have more attendees, there's a lot more bandwidth and a lot more server load, so that increases the cost. And things like Adobe, their stuff is so cheap, and they only go up a very moderate amount every freaking year. So, obviously we have a lot of team members who use, professional tools, and all those things have licensing costs and getting hardware. So there's a lot of stuff going on that's just more than the internet that costs money to put on a convention like this. And all of it adds up at the end of the day. And that's why we have registration. But registration hasn't gone up in price since 2023. We've had 3 cons at $25. And, the bills that we have cost more than physical convention. The operating budget is $800K. I recently started a convention last year, and our total costs was only $300,000-$400,000 to run the entire convention in person. And the badge price for that was I think $65 pre-con, $75 at the door, and we're charging $25. It's a different market, different expectation, the price, a lot goes into that decision, but it really was not leaving a lot of room for Furality to not run out of money, right? That's why we have the streamathon at the beginning of the year to kind of help us get all the way to the convention, because that's about where the steam is starting to run out. So that's not a tenable thing. It puts us in a bad spot every year. And so we knew that we needed to do something about it. And so that's why we started, we had a conversation with the team and made a decision to introduce this tiered phase pricing, which is pretty standard for any other convention, really. They usually at least have a pre-con and at-con price, if not more, depending on how they want to do their marketing. But this slide right here shows you our total revenue coming in for every con before this one. So all the way up to Umbra. This represents every dollar basically collected for registration, for donation, for any reason through the F.O.X portal. And I just wanted to highlight the 3 lines that have a red arrow. The one furthest to the right in white is Umbra. The purple one is Silva, and the yellow one, I believe, is Aqua, right? I get the order right. Yeah. Going back in time. If you notice, the red arrows are all about the same height. They had massively different attendances, but basically that first spike is day 1 of opening registration. That first week, it's almost like the same, however many people registered. Despite who was coming at the end of the day, those ones was like, oh yeah, we're getting our ticket day 1, let's go. And it's the same people each time, or at least roughly the same number of people, which was really interesting to see as a statistic when we looked at this. And then it kind of just stops until that last spike, which is the week of the con. It's like, oh, Furality's like today, I should probably buy that ticket. Yeah, furries don't like pre-regging. This is a thing for in-person events. I know that the pre-reg rate is at best 20%. Everybody buys it at the door. So unless you're at one of the cons where you have to buy the ticket to go or something, it's pretty low. So what this does is present us with the problem where basically 90+% of the entire year's income to run the entire year happens on one weekend. And that makes it really hard to spread out for all the expenses. So we were thinking, well, if we introduce this sort of tiered stuff, that kind of solves 2 problems. It lets people register early at the price that they're expecting it to be, which is the same price it's been for the last 3 conventions, and also incentivizes them to register sooner so that we can kind of spread out that expense leading up to the convention for all the stuff that we're doing. And then as it goes to sort of pre-reg and the at the door price, it motivates you to register sooner, but then it can also start actually increasing that registration price so that we could actually keep the lights on, as I put on the slide. Metaphorically, there's no physical building with lights. It's just the metaphor. Relax, people. All right. So this is what that same line graph looks like with Furality Somna added in the very end in blue as of this morning. What a massive difference it has made. The opening day of registration, within 48 hours, we were over like double or triple the normal registration spike that we've had the last 3 years. And obviously the first week, it's basically almost equal with the final amount of Silva. And then, it goes down to basically that middle bump is where pre-reg is sort of ending. And then you have this another spike now for everyone who's registering at con. And that has made all the world of difference to the longevity of us to be able to keep doing what we're doing, to make sure that we're able to support all the teams who have requests for software, requests for equipment, also the creative department being able to make sure that we have more time to work on worlds, more time to work on all the stuff, because the time they have to work on worlds is literally an equation of how much funding we have, right? Because all the artists are paid. So that's an exact equation of, if we don't have the budget to work all year long, then we have to say we can only work these many months. So this really makes it possible to keep moving and put on stuff like this at the quality that we would really want it to be. So thank you guys for registering and understanding why that it's required. Big thing for accessibility is purchase price parity. We are a global convention. There's a lot of countries where $1 in your currency is nowhere near $1 here, and a $25 price here for someone who might find that really affordable. And I know there's plenty of people in the US that can't find that affordable, which is why we have that financial hardship program. But in other countries, that's like the same as asking for $50 or $100 for that attendee level thing in their sort of local purchasing power. So this price parity introduction allows these other countries who pay in the currencies listed here to pay at what would be equivalent to $25 in their sort of normal range of income where they live in their currency. And that made it a lot more easy to actually buy registration at a more affordable rate. And as of this morning, we had about 3,000 non-USD transactions. And for the currencies that support price parity, it looks like a good 21% was Canadian, 29%, so almost 30% Euro, and 24% GBP were the most used regions. You might have noticed during registration, there's now a question asking for what country you're in. It's 100% just a survey so that we can target this program better at who's actually attending. Before this convention, we've never asked where people live, like even in country or region, and we don't really have any data beyond you're connecting to this server that's on your continent. So we have no idea what country you're in, and we made our best guess based on web traffic and other things like the languages that are mostly used by translation to kind of figure out where can we set up the purchase price parity, because it's a very manual thing that we have to do. So it's not just automatic turn it on for every country. We have to look up what the price should be and tell Stripe, hey, if they're using this, charge this for attendee, and then charge this for this and this for this, and if it's upgrade this. And it's really complicated, but as long hopefully with the data we collect this year on users who filled out the country field, we'll be able to expand the purchase parity program. And I think I'm coming close to the end of my segment. I know you guys are probably tired of me. improving the convention experience. So usually, I don't know if we do it every year, but usually we have a survey that goes out after the convention. And almost every single time, there's always people that say, I want to be able to get more than one voucher at a time, because for those that buy a lot of vouchers, especially streamers who like doing giveaways and stuff, some streamers buy like 100 vouchers, and that's like 100 transactions of 25. And then the bank says what's going on and all that. And we have to kind of manually help them with it. So now you can just get however many you want. You don't have to ask anybody. Just put it in. It'll work. And also you can get first class and sponsor vouchers should you want to do that for someone special or as a giveaway or whatever reason you might want to buy another pass at a higher level. You can now do that. It just made sense to kind of allow both when we made the change to support multiple vouchers. And then the other biggest request that we've seen related to DevOps is being able to have private instances or private parties, or that's what we named it, or something to that effect. And it gets into sort of this tricky thing of how Furality works and how we kind of exist in VR chat as the way that we operate, the way that our worlds are private. And when, it's implemented, there's no way that a user can make a private instance of the worlds because they're locked by the system. So we figured out a way to kind of find this middle ground. We're trying out the party host system. I know it seems like, well, why this is already a thing in VR chat. Just let us make worlds. It's complicated to navigate that. So this is our best effort to kind of provide that more private world experience, instance experience of where you just have your friends with you while you're still at Furality, and all the other requirements that come with running the convention. So hopefully you guys like it. For those of you that tried it, there was more than I thought would got it. And I haven't seen too much negative feedback, but if you did get the party host system, or add-on rather, and you have any feedback, please let us know if it's working for you. If it's not working for you, we would love to hear from you and see how we can improve it for next year. This is a trial. So hopefully it's working out and you're making the best of it. That's registration, sort of why and all the stuff behind the scenes of what goes into like why we might be making these weird decisions on this free game. So I'm going to pass it over to Volker, who's going to talk a little bit about making this new registration not look like shit, because if I would have designed it, this is why you're here.
Overshot.
Yes, I'll get out of the way now.
Hi, I'm Volker. I'm the UX designer, one of the UX designers for Furality. This year we had to do some redesigns of previous systems and some new designs as well. And the first one here is that registration needed a new design. For attendees of previous years, you might have noticed that we're no longer using our old registration and comparison table, and for new attendees, here's a visual of what that looked like. The main two reasons to redesign this were the inclusion of early bird pricing and a new party host add-on. On the left there, we have a sketch made in Illustrator, and on the right, the final design in Figma. Onto a closer look at the components on Figma, we have the pricing table, the comparison sheet, and last but not least, the party host call to action. Shout out to the front-end team for implementation. This is how the front page looks today. Along with the party host add-on ticket, we also had to implement a simple confirmation dialog to ensure that users met the requirement to be a party host when registering. Unlike previous years, you can now buy additional vouchers outside of general and price parity discounts and everything. Along with the party host add-on, we need to design the user flow for hosting and attending private parties. So there's a sketch of that user flow. And on the right here, you can find the final implementation of the hosting user flow. Alongside that, we have the final implementation of the private party guest flow as well. I just realized I sped through that. So I'll pass it along to the great beans that have to put up with me, the front end team.
It's all good. I just want to show real quick.
Oh yeah.
Real quick. Sorry. I'm just cutting you off, Magic. All right, one moment. I haven't talked enough, clearly.
Let me speak.
On the screen, I'm sorry. On the screen, this is what it looks like if you have the Party Host add-on, and that little search bar right there is what we mentioned earlier, or what I mentioned earlier with this quick search for friends. So really cool that it will show your entire friends list as you type it letter for letter, and give you like a list of people you can add. And it'll even let you know like, hey, this person still needs to register, or this person still needs to be age verified, so that you can, if you're trying to plan this party and get people in there, you can be like, hey, by the way, you need to go take care of this so that it actually works. And you're not just sitting there clicking invite and it's saying invite failed, and then us getting like 500 emails about it. Thank you. And now you can.
AI. All right.
Communication.
Once I get to my slide. Okay. Hi. I'm Yajic. I'm the front end lead. So real quick, I'm just going to go over a few new things that we've been doing in front end that aren't going to be covered in other parts of the presentation here. First off, we got a new front page for Furality.org. Very cool looking. Of course, you can go see it yourself on the website at Furality.org. It's using a new design language that looks very pretty, and we're hoping to include this sort of design across more places on the on .org as we can get to them. Also new is we have translations on Furality.org. You can go up to the top and translate the website to whatever you need. We've got a few different translations that are available, and there's a few more that are going to be coming soon. But on a technical side, there was a bit of re-architecting that needed to be done on the website in order for translations to work. Previously, we used Next.js's static export, which is easy to cache on Cloudflare, very cheap and great for SEO, but it has limited support for localizations using the URL. So we had to change that up to really get that working for us. So now we're using Next on Pages, which it's a different sort of build process where it'll have better support for translations in the URL, and it's still pretty good for SEO. And it has an added benefit that it allows for SER if we choose to do that in the future. Currently, we aren't really using that. And it does have some cost increases, but it's very minimal in practice. There was a ton of work that went into getting .org translated. Huge shout outs to the translations team for getting all that done. It is by far our largest set of translation keys that we've gotten. Down there you can see our key counts for each. Furality.org has 640 keys and 17,000 translatable words. Compare that to Furality Online, our previously had the most translations, only had 626 keys and only about 5,000 words. There's also a shared key set with the registration, which has some shared stuff, but that's equal between the two. All right, and now we need to move over to the friend system. Who's taking over for this?
Yeah, me.
All right, get up here.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is White Wolf. I'm one of the developers for the user location system. And we're going to get a little technical today because I think it's really worth it. It's a problem that looks simple, but it gets really complicated once you get into the technical details. So, friends are complicated, or how I learned to stop worrying and love event pipelines. Let's go. So, who needs friends? So it's scientifically proven that shenanigans are better together. When we go to instances, when we go to clubs, in VR and in real life, we want to do it with our friends. But in VR, we have the little problem that, you gotta know where they are. So it helps to know where they are. We do it in VR chat. We have the website. But importantly, Furality is structured in a way such as we need to make private instances. So that means the friend location doesn't work with the VRChat website, which means we have to implement that ourselves. And that's okay. We did it until like the last convention. You can tell the F.O.X portal who your friends are. You can import them with a click of a button. We used to have a browser extension. Now it's easier. And thanks to Magic, it can show their location in VRChat. Voila! Simple enough, isn't it? Unfortunately, it gets complicated. So VRChat is complicated. Before Somna, we had a backend that relied on a pretty big and inefficient database query, which is okay. It's not a naive approach. It's a very good approach when you're small, but we scale a lot. We became a big convention, and we needed something different because those queries, the complexity of those queries was growing exponentially with the users. So it has like a high cardinality, as you say. And also, we were querying the same database that holds every other information about the convention. It holds our users, our payments, literally everything that happens for locating friends happens on the same database that has all our critical data. Something happens because we have a high load of friend requests that impacts our other services. The load is not decoupled. And, well, naively, the browser just posts the backend, so it's going to do the same query over and over again. We're going to get to this part. And, yeah, under high load, there's a little problem that lag increases. And when lag increases, users get frustrated. When they get frustrated, they refresh the page over and over, and all the queries get queued, and the database has to satisfy all of them. And, yeah, things break. So it's sensitive to user spikes. It can't scale easily. The user experience wasn't ideal. I myself remember that locating my friends required some time. And yeah, also my SQL replicas were really, really expensive. We used to have, I don't remember, Kaki, how many replicas there were last year, but the cost of that was significant.
There was probably 13.
13? Holy. Okay, yeah. More than I remembered. So we needed a different approach. What do you do when you have a lot of data? You don't want to pass around the same data over and over again. You want to pass around only differences of information, deltas, using an event system. So we want to process those events with a pipeline of microservices. Data flows naturally, and only the necessary data reaches the users. That's the ideal condition because it's the minimum amount of data you have to produce in order to get the result you want. And obviously, we want to cache a lot of this data in memory. We want to avoid database queries. We want to avoid disk reads, if possible, because honestly, we have a lot of friends stored. We're going to see at the end of the presentation. But it's not so much data that it cannot be stored in the RAM of a single instance of a virtual machine, or in our case, a pod. So obviously we want to emit updates to users in real time. And that's pretty much it. That's the requirements. That still sounds easy? Well, actually, there's two big problems we have to cross out. The first is how you turn polling into events. Because VRChat provides an API, which is not even officially documented, if I remember right, and that API only gives us the current state of those instances. We want to poll every single instance we have, or at least every active one, see what users are there, and yeah, make some magic that turns that data into something useful. You want you to have your friends, it's a query, and for each friend you have to figure out their location. More queries. So how do we turn this into a good input for events? Well, also we have the problem that it's inconsistent due to caching. So we might have the same user in multiple instances, has some terminal lag, it sometimes errors out, but that's minimal. What's the solution to this? We pull the data, we clean it up, divided and distributed as events. What does it mean? It means that we just make snapshots of this information, and then we figure out the differences of those snapshots. For example, user A is in an instance, and then we see after a while that user A is not anymore in the instance. That means that user A left the instance. It's a simple concept, but it gets more complicated afterwards. But that's the basic idea. You need to take differences of data, and those differences become the events. So, second problem is how to distribute those events to users. Because you don't want to send the same data over and over. You only want to send the minimum amount to the correct users, and pretty fast, because when we switch instances, we really want to follow along our friends. It's part of the user experience. And if possible, we would also like to keep a history of what happened to the user, what happened to an instance, and react to friend changes. Oh, I have new friends. I want to see where they are immediately, because I want to follow this new friend. That's a pretty hard requirement, because it means that whenever there's a friend update, that data has to enter the pipeline the same way. And visibility. So I'm not going to go through the eventually consistent state. Somebody who works with this is going to probably understand. The key is that even if the system errors out, it's going to eventually be consistent, which means if you wait a little bit, it will go to the correct state. And obviously, the purpose is to never query MySQL. So how do we do this? Well, we need some kind of scalable publish-subscribe system with large bindings. What does it mean? It means that it can support a lot of clients with no problem, basically. And we want to cache friends. We want to cache locations, as we said. And most importantly, do what's usually called a get and subscribe operation. You send the initial state on subscription, and then you send the deltas. What does the browser do when you open the friends page? It gets the initial state, unless it's already memorized, we'll see after, and then it only gets the differences, our events, after they exit the pipeline. So how do we get there? This is a project that took a long time. The original idea was to use one of our systems that we had already, that's RabbitMQ. It's a message queue, and we use it already for POS, for example, for our runner system. But RabbitMQ had some minor issues when we tried to understand how scaling worked, especially with a feature called super streams. We were thinking of using that at the beginning, and then we switched ideas, or rather Connie did. So it was challenging to scale. It was not ideal for our use case. And we needed to design a chain of function-like services. What do I mean by that? Is that a function, as in the mathematical term, receives an input and it spits out an output without any more context. So we need a bunch of those services that process data in that way. So we went through a lot of iterations. There were lots of changes. For a little while, I had myself trouble following it because there's a lot of technologies I didn't know at the time. But at the end, we figured out that we needed some very reliable message broker that wasn't RabbitMQ. And so, what are those requirements? Why do we need a different message broker? We need something that's well supported and widespread, which RabbitMQ is, honestly, but also scalable and fault tolerant. We need to have the broker to be our most solid piece of the infrastructure. Everything has to rely on it. And possibly also have topic compaction, which is, we're going to see, distribute to a variable number of workers, because when there's events where there's a lot of users that go from an instance to the other, we obviously want to scale up as fast as possible. Otherwise, there's going to be a queue of those events, and there's going to be delays. Which means he needs to handle a ton of data. We have, as of now, 9 million friend relationships, and some of our mass migrations involve more than 20,000 users. Let's think about the community showcase or the closing ceremonies. So what can we use for it? And at this point, I would like to pass on to Connie, which is one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. They designed most of the system, and I'm really glad we could deliver this for this convention. Connie?
Thank you very much, White Wolf. I am Connie, and I am the backend second for Furality. So when we were thinking about user location systems, Kafka was the thing that we ended up deciding upon. So Kafka is a really nice piece of technology that has been around for a bit. It's very well supported. There are a bunch of good clients, some really good support for even running it in Kubernetes with the Strimzy operator and such. But overall, it's a fantastic piece of technology that fit a lot of our requirements. The things that we really liked about it is that it provides a really nice scaling strategy with topics and partitions. It's really designed for high performance, and it can handle a ton of backlog if something ever goes down or we need to pause something. You can store terabytes of data, which we don't, but you could. The other great thing about it is that it has a really nice consistency, or a couple different ways you can provide consistency guarantees. We operate it in a way that we have at least once reliability, which means that for every message we send or every consumer that gets it, it's guaranteed that we get the message at least one time. We may get it multiple times, but we design all of our data pipeline to be idempotent, so that is okay if we have to retry if something goes wrong. So just a little about Kafka. The main type of units in Kafka are what you call topics. It's basically a log with different partitions, and a partition is basically just a small independent section with its own independent ordering guarantees, such that we can process them independently and not have to rely on global state or maintain a global ordering of messages. So for example, a single user will be routed to a specific partition and other users will do other partitions. And we can process each of these partitions independently without worrying about cross data. So I mentioned that Kafka has topics, and inside of those topics you publish messages. Specifically, how does it decide which partition to send it to? So each message has a key that you populate, and then the producer hashes that key, and then it decides what partition to send it to. So what's nice about that is that a user will always go to the same topic, and it should be, and the hashing function is good enough such that, if you have a random set of user IDs, it should be evenly balanced between all the partitions. Some of the other things that we do is that services in the user location system only communicate with each other by publishing messages to Kafka about the state of the world. We have a couple different topics in our location system, including what a user's friends are, where they are, and some other metadata like if you're visible or not. We run the Kafka brokers in our Kubernetes cluster with the Strimzy operator, which is very nice, and it's been rock solid with us so far, and it's just been a breeze to set up. So as we said, all the services and data pipeline communicate through Kafka. It is our source of truth, and it basically is the source of truth. One of the things that we like about Kafka is topic compaction too, which basically means that if you have, it allows Kafka, when it reaches specific retention policies, it can delete records. It can delete older records with the same key and just leave the most recent one, which is very nice, and it helps save us, some space, and if we ever need to restart or reset the consumer group offsets. So Kafka is just the main backbone of this for the majority of the data pipeline. But once we start getting to the main front end or query part of it, Redis becomes the way we end up querying stuff, which I'll get to in a little bit. We wrote the data pipeline stuff in Golang. It has some really nice Kafka libraries that make it also a breeze to work with, and it can be scaled up very quickly and start up very fast if we need to suddenly handle large amounts of load and dynamic, spikes. So here's an example of one of our data pipeline services. So as you see that vrchat.user topic? Messages are published to that that contain like your user ID and then a list of all your friend IDs. That specifically gets created when you click sync friends on that page in the Furality website. So there's a little consumer that subscribes to that topic, and then it detects changes to that list, and then it publishes messages to another topic, VRChat user friend, on friend add and remove. And then we have things further on in the pipeline that subscribe to those deltas and then react accordingly. So the main inputs for this data pipeline are, of course, stuff that we pull from VRChat, as well as metadata and stuff from the F.O.X API, including friend visibility. If you click hide or show friend locations, that's something that this pipeline needs to be aware about. So all these things publish or produce messages to Kafka, and then we have all these services that consume from them and then publish things back into Kafka. And then at the very end, we have Redis in the way that we can provide this get and subscribe mechanism to be able to get the current state of friends and be able to subscribe to updates in a consistent way. So friends are an interesting system too, because we can process messages about users pretty independently, and user data is very easy to, it's all about a user, but friends are like another order of magnitude. There's not really any relations between your user ID and any of your friends. So just joining topics or something like that, or just being able to know where your friends are. If you did it trivially, you would have to subscribe to the entire stream or all of the partitions, which is really not scalable for just getting the user location of a specific, or getting the locations of your specific friends. So what we do instead is that we have this broadcaster as part of the pipeline that updates, if a user changes location, it updates this user's location into, for every one of their friends. So what does that actually mean? So the way we do this is that in Redis, we have this dual, we have this hash and stream to basically support this get and subscribe operation. This hash contains the current state of all the user's friends, and the stream contains any updates to that. So when we broadcast this, we have this atomic Lua function in Redis that adds, updates the hash as well as publishes a message to that stream to be about that update. And specifically, we are able to add on that stream sequence offset to the hash, so we can make sure that when we do the get and subscribe, nothing is lost between that initial hscan of the stream and the future X reads, or hscan of the hash and the future X reads of the stream, which is basically how the front-end querier works. The broadcaster, consumes messages from Kafka, updates that friend hash stream for all of the user's friends about their location. And then there's another service that queries Redis. It does the get and subscribe operation and translates that into an SSE stream. Here's a very tiny diagram probably, but it contains all the different parts of this system. It looks a bit complicated, but the idea is that, we have things ingesting like the location or the instance messages. We know what users are in there. We have some change detection that figures out where a user is. We then, do delta detection for user friends, and then we have the broadcaster, which uses a consumer group to join all those because we co-partition them by a specific user ID, and then it broadcasts it to all of the user's friends. What's really nice about this in communicating or in making these, message-based services is that it's very easy to test by just sending messages and seeing how they react by seeing what messages they publish to. So it's trivial to mock by just, or even load test by just simulating the VRChat API and making these pseudo fake instances and stuff and seeing how it responds, what load we can have, how much memory it will use, and other things that you do to make sure that things work. And on to how do we make this work in the browser?
Oh, me again. Hello. So on the front end, we need to turn those series of events that we're getting from the back end into some sort of usable data set that we can display to the users. So how do we handle those updates? Solution, we deploy central. Oh wait, no. Look. We're using server sent events to get the backend updates to the browser, and we're using sse.js as a wrapper around that because we need to be able to include authentication with our requests, so we can all see whose friends we're supposed to be getting. We also need to keep a record of all the locations. How else are we going to be able to keep track of everything? As a solution, we're using IndexedDB as our local database within the browser, and we're using dexy.js as a wrapper around that, as that makes it persistent. So, we don't have to constantly be refetching things. It can just live in the the DB. Got some SQL-like indexing. So if we want to get a specific instance, all your friends in a specific instance, it's just a straightforward SQL sort of query to be able to get that. If we want all the friends that you have online, we can get that too. And it's all synced between every tab, and it is live as well. So as soon as we get that update, it can go between all the different tabs you might have open, and it just works. SSE does have some limitations though. On legacy systems, it only allows up to 6 connections per browser per domain. This is fixed on HTTP2, but it still is a concern with us because if you have 20K plus attendees viewing the website, that's 20,000 connections going to our backend server. And if we're doing that per tab, that's a lot of information. We want to keep that as limited as possible. So we're using worker scripts. There's a funny there. So we're using worker scripts. That way we can have all the processing go in the background. And we're also using shared workers so that there's at most 1 script instance at a time. You don't have to worry about, sharing that information between a bunch of different things. And it works out nicely. It leaves a lot of the backend strain for us. So, problem, ghosts. You guys probably saw this if you attended the first day of the con and then came back the next day, Thursday to Friday. Sometimes we had friends that had lived, friends that were appearing in instances that they hadn't shown up in over 24 hours. And yeah, that was an oopsie on our part. When we connect to the stream to get all the friend location updates, it sends us back the whole entire, every friend that you have online, it gets sent in that update. So, but the problem was we were keeping track of all the previous updates, and that didn't include people who were offline. So some of that was just left behind if you happened to not be browsing at that point. So now we just reset the connection, or reset your local database whenever you visit one of the tabs that has friend locations. That does result in a brief flash where you don't have it, where it says you don't have any friends online, but that's fine. It's at least more consistent now. There is a note on shared worker support. It isn't supported on Android, or Android specifically if you are Chrome, which is very funny because it's typically Safari for us that causes problems, not Chrome. So normally, maybe that would be fine, but Quest users of this apparently affects. So we had to make sure we had a fallback for that. So what we do instead is we fall back to regular web workers, where technically every single tab you have open will have its own web worker. But we use weblocks to sort of coordinate the connection between all the different tabs. And that's actually super nice because when that tab closes, that weblock is released and another tab can come in and claim it. And then it can start the connection and receive all the updates in its stead. Super nice, and it actually works decently well. So, question, why not service workers? Service workers are widely supported, like shared, even more so than shared workers. They'd work on Android, on Chrome, but they have some extra features as well that could be useful. It's the reason why not. It's complicated. Service workers add a lot of extra complexity in handling which service worker gets loaded in if we happen to update it. And the lifetime of the actual service worker is a bit vague. Sometimes it might live on past the tab's lifetime. It might cut itself off during the tab's lifetime. It's hard to say. So we don't want to deal with that complexity, so we don't use a service worker. And we also don't necessarily need our workers to be running all the time. Currently on the website, if you visit one of our pages that has friend locations, that could be the friends page itself, party page, one of the event pages, that will load up the worker and it'll start receiving all the updates. So we don't have those streams working on in the background. It's just a little bit of optimization. It works pretty well for us. Another question: why workers at all? The logic for how we're handling regular web workers, the not shared workers, would work completely fine within the tab's own script instance. And, having workers is extra complexity. Why bother with that at all? Well, why not? Why not use workers for this? The workers are more resilient, so if the page itself crashes, the worker should keep on running despite that. It was also a new feature that we could look into. We might use workers in the future. It could be super useful if we, ever needed workers in the future for some new feature that we haven't implemented yet. It is fun to work with. And the result is, well, you have friend locations. You've been able to go to the friends page and click join on them. That's the friend location system at work. We were actually found it's so quick while in development that we could see people disappear from the friend locations as you're loading into the next world, and then they would reappear once you had loaded. It was pretty crazy to see in real time. We had some other miscellaneous changes and fixes during Somna that I'm going to bring up here. I had already mentioned the fix for the ghost users. That's all done. We implemented the refresh button page, or refresh button on the friends page, so it actually reset your connection. Very nice to have there. And thank you, Luggles, for getting that working with me. Exponential fall off if the connection to the friend system fails. There was a bit of a funny situation there that we had where after updating something, the token inside the worker had failed. So it was constantly pinging the stream, the friend stream to try and start up the stream again. And a whole bunch of clients were doing that at the same time. So we ended up creating an instance where we were sending 4,000 to 6,000 requests per second to the endpoint at sort of a load test of sorts. And the system actually ended up handling it just fine. But obviously having that going on in the background isn't ideal. So we ended up fixing that. We also do have a feature flag to be able to control when those workers are going. We can actually switch people between the shared worker to the regular workers if we need to, or we can just disable it completely. And now it's time for the conclusions. Who's taking over for this one?
Wow.
Here, Connie, get up here.
Thank you. All right, it's me again. Let's talk about what we've learned in the overall user location system as a whole. So first of all, speed is overall orders of magnitude in both seeing your friend's update location as well as the entire processing pipeline, and especially the lack of database queries. Instead of doing a very complex join with, across all of your friends and figuring out where they are, it's instead a simple scan of a hash in Redis and it's in a X read from streams. For reliability, it's also significantly improved with the use of Kafka and Redis and our eventual consistency model. We're able to handle outages, be able to easily scale up, as well as just easily test and ensure we have a solid product. Crash resilience, right, is a huge thing, and especially with partition and sharded workers, we can still have things be able to work properly even if one part goes down due to some reasons. lower cost as well. It's super cheap to run Redis. It's especially compared to what we want to use it for. Instead of having a bunch of, MySQL read replicas needed to do those really complicated fringe joins, it's significantly faster. It saves us a lot of cost, and it's a super nice system. And of course, right, we wouldn't be able to have a friend location system without all of the friends here at Furality. Let's see. So for future developments, we did HTTP SSE streams just as a quick way to get this up and running for front end. In the future, we want to switch to using WebSockets, which should be pretty easy. SSE was just something that works pretty easily, and anything that can make HTTP requests can work with it. We had initially planned to use Centrifugo as a WebSocket in event user event system, but we didn't quite have enough time to set that up before, and it's something we want to do probably for replacing F.O.X socks as well, which is one way we can do async messages to user browsers. We wanted to focus on just getting the core functionality there before improving connectivity. And with the systems and stuff that we have in place, we can use this for streaming updates to other various parts of our system, including DJ events, user notifications, and other various changes in state. And thank you to everyone who all worked on this and helped design it. Me, White Wolf, Magic, and all the rest of the backend team. And front-end team.
I'll be taking over the infrastructure portion, and I just want to say that the party system, as well as a couple other components, are also using this new friend location system behind the scenes. So we're pretty much completely off of the old querying the database, except for some internal moderation actions. But great job on the backend team and front-end team for implementing this and getting it up and running before the con. It made us not crash for a community showcase, though VRChat kind of took that credit away from us this year. So I'm going to be talking about our infrastructure component. So some cool things we had to implement due to the new user location system, as well as some other implementations, where we implemented Dragonfly DB as a replacement for Redis for all of our other services. So like Boop, F.O.X API, the words are failing me, the old F.O.X sock system, and all those are now on Dragonfly DB. We don't really need the scale like the user location system does for a massive Redis cluster. Right now, I believe it's scaled to like 9 replicas and 9 followers, so it's a lot of Redis running for that system. But for the rest of these systems, they just need like a single primary Dragonfly DB Redis pod and 2 replicas in case one tends to go down for rescheduling, as well as the Strimsy Kafka operator. So that makes it extremely easy for us to like spin up a Kafka cluster, monitor it, scale it if we need to with load, and we can even build a base template for both our dev and production environment and just alter the values. And one other thing we did this year that's a bit different than last year, DigitalOcean has 2 different options for kind of how you want your database and Kubernetes nodes ran. Last year we ran shared CPUs, so we were running on the same CPUs as a lot of other DigitalOcean customers. This year we went with the dedicated CPU options. So that means we have a guaranteed, this is our performance across our entire cluster, and we aren't guessing about how much load we have available based on what servers we're on and what other customers are running on their physical hardware. So it makes it a lot easier for us to set up alerts and actually respond. And I'm sorry, I will not do a flip. And some other cool retrospective items, which I believe I'm covering as well.
I think I popped back up, but we kind of like this is about stuff for all of us in here, but you can start.
Yeah. So the first thing I do want to show is our beautiful proxy status graph. So this contains all the data that we sent to VRChat in Discord. Here you can see last night when VRChat tend to have some problems. When they did recover, our system decided to start spamming their API to get back of our query, and I think we might have made things worse. Maybe not, but we did scale our operations back. But we do a lot of cool monitoring here against all systems that leave Furality. We monitor Discord connections, VRChat, Stripe, everything. And we have a ton of cool dashboards that let us see how exactly the convention is running at a time. So like you can see that our error rate going out to them was 50, 60%. It's pretty well representative of their status page as well. So this is some really cool data that we like to collect. And some other cool stuff we did this year. The whole dealers den, it is API driven this year. So when you first go into the dealers, then you get that big pop-up from VRChat saying you're connecting to api.fin.ai. That's our main API. So all of the booths, textures, backwalls, even the bookmarks when you link your world is synced via our API. This allows our dealers to go to some internal pages we have and upload their booth textures, upload backwalls, add tags to their booths, and it is all almost live representation in the dealers den after reload and our caching expires. So one other thing that we were able to implement because of this is we actually have image and video processing now. So all booth textures are properly crunched, made to work with the website and VRChat on upload, including with the videos. That includes audio leveling, making sure you don't go into a booth and it makes you deaf, or you go into a booth and it's too quiet. It tries to keep everything consistent and encodes it to ensure it works with VRChat. Since someone could upload it in a weird format with 60 frames a second, this makes everything consistent. And for the first couple hours of the con, we were having some issues with our server-side events. So we actually got this we are temporary rate limited message from Cloudflare. Since Cloudflare decided not to respect our rules that we put into them, telling them not to buffer and not to cache the server-side events stream. So your user locations were being sent, but because we were proxying Cloudflare through a certain way, they were all getting stuck at Cloudflare and buffered until the connection closed, and then you would receive a dump of all events that happened during that time. So we found a solution for it to make sure it worked and got everything configured so it did work. But this was probably a good chaos for the first 3-4 hours of the con as we try to reconcile this situation. It was really funny.
Go back one slide.
Okay.
One other really cool thing besides the automatic audio leveling for the dealer den booth, so that you don't get the yelling videos, is we actually also use the feature. I don't know if it's directly in FFmpeg or a script with it, but it detects certain frequencies of flashes so that any strong strobing or flashing that meets the threshold that it's looking for gets sort of blended out so that it removes that flashing frame from the video that is uploaded, so everyone can access the video without having to worry about the flashing content, without putting extra technical requirements on dealers to know what is the right amount and have to edit their videos to something they may not be very familiar with. So all they have to do is upload their original video and the processor handles that. So something that was really cool that we were able to implement to make the dealers den more accessible.
A lot of cool stuff that we did this year. That is one of the bigger ones. That was fun playing out with FFmpeg and image magic, which I hate, but it works. We're not using image magic again next year. No.
You say that now. We've been using it for 8 conventions.
The last thing I forgot to mention is we now support Avatar Marketplace and the dealers den. So dealers can go onto their dealers acceptance page where they normally upload their boot textures and stuff. They can actually put the ID of their avatar marketplace listing. And then when you go to their booth and you're clicking through their avatar pedestal that appears, you can click it and it pulls up what they selected. All of this is API driven and not hard coded into the world. So allows, at least lightens the creative team load. So anytime that we need to test a dealer change, it isn't waiting a couple days while they batch everything together and do it in a single upload. So it's really cool, that system.
Drake in the chat says nothing more permanent than a temporary solution. True be that, especially here.
I know the amount of temporary solutions that we have built that are still in there. Oh God, please help us. But it works. Everything works.
We'll just add it to our list of things to change for next year. Replace image magic.
That list is becoming too long. I don't like it. I regret saying let's not send it in the channel and put it down on paper. Okay, so here's our oops slide of everything that we did during the convention that was funny. I personally really enjoy the top left one where it's the nuke reg button, because the front end team got really tired. Well, I got really tired of going into the database and deleting their registration every single time. So we made them a button to just delete themselves. Not in production. So
testing in dev, yes.
Yes, we actually test in dev. We do not test in production some of the times. So
allegedly.
Anyone else have anything to poke up that they have enjoyed? Oh, also the fuck target when we were testing the user party system. I was very tired when they asked for a target. So I just made something that would listen to magic laugh in the voice call. So when I heard him laugh, I knew that it was working. That was the whole reason why I just named it that. As well, our dangerous message of time for a stand-up meeting from our chairman. Please no. Some other ones, that was the image for the second one of no fucks given. That was our second target we made. So
fake world names.
Yes. These are not real instances. These are not real worlds. This was all in our test environment, and it was we actually used the dealers then world IDs to test these. We were just making sure that our queries and everything worked properly. Yes, I love effing birds. Both of them were.
Is that your AI screenshot?
Which one? Oh no, that is Chris's. Chris was asking a coding question, and that's what he put up there as a response to it. It just made us laugh. He was asking about the localization support because we were all a bit confused. And then the beautiful meme. Huh? Oh, yes. There was a bug in our dealer's code where people, when they submitted their updated booth, it would recreate all of their tags again and again. So every time someone hit it, they would have 200-300 tags. So that's why...
You're very talented, Magic. You every tag more than once.
The Walmart of the dealers then.
It's Kubernetes. Yes. But especially yesterday, it did make me cry. Especially watching all of our consumer graphs go up and be like that for a couple hours.
Furality staff nightmare. Someone made that Polaroid with the maintenance page. If you see the maintenance page, that's us doing something. If you see no page, that's a crash.
Yes, we turn on that page, and then we have a special way of making everyone refresh within a couple minutes, so everyone gets to the maintenance page. And it lets us fix all the bugs that are currently hitting the system.
Oh, we should have included a screenshot of like what happens when we force everyone to refresh. Shoot.
Oh, yes. It's really fun hitting that socket command and then seeing our API load spike to 3,000 to 4,000 requests a second. So that was always fun and scary. I had to scale us up manually before then because the system would just not handle it. Then you saw our graph. This is from the VRChat status graph. They're pretty much a very close representation, except we were getting a lot more API error rates because we were mostly pulling instances and stuff. We don't do normal VRChat user activities. I hope kind of clearly. And actually have our fancy dashboard up in XS overlay. The fact that currently on the portal, we have 10,600 active friend streams going through the new user location system. We have 9.22 million friend relations stored in our database this year. It's kind of crazy. And TM, we haven't opening and Words Community Showcase did not crash us this year, which is something new. Let's hope we can keep that trend for closing. I am hoping.
Knock on wood.
If it breaks,
You
I
had
blame
to
you.
say something. You just had to say something.
They already broke my auth system by spamming it too much.
Yeah.
As you can see, a lot of really cool things have been happening over the year here at Furality DevOps, and hopefully you've been able to enjoy a lot of the cool features that we did, and the improvements just overall for the convention and the F.O.X portal website itself, and whether it's some accessibility feature, language translation, or just availability. And being able to get around to all the cool stuff going on. Looks like we have a few minutes for questions. So if you haven't already, there is a Discord channel for Q&A. I'll go ahead and start pulling some questions out of there. And also, thank you everyone up here. Did a great job going over all the cool things going on. I'll pass around some questions as I...
Also, there's pretty much a large portion of our DevOps department in the audience in this host instance, and thank y'all as well. A lot of what we do to make this convention run would not help happen with these awesome individuals. They each bring something really important to the team, and I believe at least half of them have yelled at me to get sleep and threatened me, especially me over there, because they keep saying I should sleep, and I don't know why.
I think we're waiting for questions.
You might be muted, Aloe.
Uh-huh. Totally wasn't talking.
I thought it was me because my Quest overlay popped. I was like, does that kill
Thanks
the
for
audio?
saying something. Yes, I was saying. Indeed, thank you to the whole team and DevOps for working on cool stuff, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to make this all possible, so you guys can enjoy the convention, and you can only really see a small glimpse of it in talks like these, or when we're really noticed is when it's not working, but that's not the optimal moment. Skipping past the why does PHP suck question at the beginning of the chat here.
Yeah, don't get us started. Aloe will murder us.
It's fine. It's fine. Just stop changing languages. Just pick one. All right. That's all I ask.
Moving everything to Go.
No. Will there be early bird pricing every year for registering? I don't know the answer to that question, but probably. That is not a DevOps question. Yes, people are asking about joining the DevOps team. Give it some time for us to take a break and stuff and kind of figure out where we're at as a team. If we have any openings, they will show up on the internally developed job board called team.furality.org that lists all the volunteer and creative positions when they are open. There will probably be announcements on their social media when such time occurs. So, let's see. Question: why do the party host private instances parties require 18 plus age verification so that they're self-moderating? Is probably the easiest answer there. It's like a room party. No reason not to have age verification. And we felt that it's a good way to kind of see how that works within our system as well. There isn't any plan to use age verification as part of a requirement to come to Furality as a whole. There hasn't been any discussion around that, so don't freak out or anything. But we thought it'd be the best practice to do with the private party instances, as are a little more hidden from the rest of the public. So, let's see. Will the DevOps slides be available after the stream to look back on like Soba? You want to post it later, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and post it later.
Why not switch to another DB? Just this isn't MySQL as your solution. Looks like everyone pointed at you.
The answer, I think, is simple because they're not supposed to handle data like this. Like relational databases are for storing a lot of data and querying it in a specific way using indexes and stuff. Like Kafka is a whole different story. It's for subscribing to those messages organized in topics. It's like comparing apples and oranges. They're two fruits, but they don't have the same taste. So what we needed was the reactivity to new events. I know that PostgreSQL also has some subscribe commands that you can use. I've used them myself. It's quite powerful, but it's not designed for that. It's like an extension. We needed something that has this feature natively, and that allowed us to scale with the partitioning that we needed. Because each topic has to be separated into multiple workers, and those workers can scale up and down. That's not an easy problem when you face it. You have to distribute those messages evenly, even when you add or remove a worker. You don't want to do that manually. It's very complicated, and it would be best if the database and the libraries do that. So that's why we don't want to.
MongoDB is web scale.
Oh my gosh.
I have a fun question. What were we doing while VRChat was down yesterday? We were playing Jackbox, watching graphs. I mean, there's nothing really much we can do. There's nothing we really can do, but just communicate with VRChat and the awesome people over there. We give a lot of jabs, but it's friendly because this event would have been possible without us working closely together. But we were just playing Jackbox, watching graphs, waiting for the system to recover, and keeping each other updated.
And shout out to guest services and those who were very patiently answering the very unique question and concern that came up for a very small time period that totally wasn't repetitive. But yes. Apart from OAuth, what other...
Oh, you go.
Apart from OAuth, what other things does VRChat provide only to Furality? We aren't the only ones that use OAuth. I'm pretty sure other groups have access to. If you're interested in it, you have to reach out to them. The APIs that we use are those that are publicly, officially, unofficially documented in the whatever GitHub repo. I think they're better documenting it themselves now, but I think really the magic thing is that we just don't have rate limits because we have a official partnership. And
we work together for some really cool like integration features with the making instances private, so you have to use our F.O.X portal and our software to use them. So some really cool stuff. And thank you. They implemented the whole friend import scope. That was something that did not exist last year, and VRChat worked with us on building that into their OAuth system just so we could use it for the convention. And
yeah,
it would be probably a good mention. Also, the experiment we did last year with the very big instances, maybe.
Oh yes,
I think that
and the
was
big
just for us.
instances. That's something we get to test around with. And
I don't know how exclusive that was because I think they did it for New Year's too. But yeah, that was really crazy having like a close to 300 person thing. I do want to say that huge props to those that are on the VRChat team that really support trying to make the platform a better place for groups like ours and others that are trying to do similar things. Most of the time when we have conversations with them, and I'm glad that we're able to like have that sort of developer to developer talk to see how we can both kind of make the best of whatever the situation is. Most of the time, the context of these conversations of like what would make it better for Furality to operate, you know, what features as far as the API is concerned or stuff like that would help. It's usually more in the framework of like events like yours, or you know, just sort of it benefits everyone on the platform. I'm not sure that other than disabling our very specific user account's ability to see the friends list on the website because it's very taxing with 30,000 people, that there is all that much that is very only Furality. So usually any kind of new features that get implemented are just better for everyone who might be a general user, if it's user affecting, or a potential other partner of VRChat. For on the business relationship. I think we can do one more question. We're a little bit over. I'll see if I can find a good one.
I have a quick one while you look. What of any alarm system do we use? We use Grafana completely with the open source on-call, and it pings the on-call backend or infra person via Telegram. And then it pings us if things don't get resolved within a certain time or they need help. So Grafana, Prometheus, and all that jazz.
I think most of these. No, I was reading. All right, relax. I think that's probably a good spot to call it. A lot of these questions that I'm reading are a little bit more in depth than a quick 60-second kind of response. We might pop into the Discord chat and reply in text if we can, but really great that we had the opportunity to have a little bit more time to sorry, I gotta mute my Discord. We're glad that we had the opportunity to have a little more time to kind of go a bit more in depth. Usually we only get 60 minutes and it's really hard to get through all the slides and answer questions. And there was just so much good stuff that was worked on this year, and I wanted the team to be able to kind of talk about it. So we're glad that you guys are hopefully having a wonderful experience at Furality Somna. And I know that the fireworks show is coming up at the top of the hour. You can get there by going to the Explore page, the big map of the bedroom, and clicking on the poster. It'll open up at the top of the hour. Go watch it. It's really beautiful, and you can watch it at any point. It happens at the half-hour tick mark of every hour, so you don't need to go right away. If you want to go later with your friends, that's perfectly okay. It'll keep replaying, and it's open all the way to Tuesday. So don't stress if you have a panel or set you want to go to. It'll be there for you when you're ready for it. But that's all the time we have. Thank you, everyone. DevOps that's here on stage, and also the DevOps that are in the audience and those that are not present here in the instance. We all work really hard to make this event possible, and we're glad that you are here with us. Until next time, see you guys later.